Okay, Sasha, thanks a lot for responding to the invitation. This is my first podcast talking in English, so I'm going to do my best to, have a clear, understandable questions. The idea of those podcasts is really to give some ideas about the approach of psychology from people who are actors of this world of high-level sports. Previously, we had a chess player, like a grandmaster. We had the #1 French poker player. Also, and now we have a very experienced player and coach in high-level basketball. So I'm sure it's going to be really interesting because you have like both experience as a player, as a coach. So to start, thanks a lot for coming, for the invitation.
Thanks you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm very happy to do that. So for people who don't know you, I just present you like you have a very, very rich past as a player. So you played from, you correct me if I'm wrong, took some infos, from 88 to 05 as a player, from Red Star, and of course in France with CSP Limoges.
Was just 1-2 months, here.
Just a few months, yeah.
2-3 months. I get hurt, and
then you went back to Berlin. Is that it?
To Belgrade first, and then Berlin.
Berlin.
Belgrade, I finished the season.
You finished the season.
And then I start with Berlin, and then career.
Yes. Rome, Italy.
Coming back to Germany.
To Germany.
Yes, and becoming the coach in the same team, from Cologne.
In Cologne, right?
Yes,
exactly. So as a player, so once again, it's really for the players to understand who we're talking to. For the youngest people watching, don't have the basketball knowledge that I have. You won the Courage Cup. You're three times Yugoslavia champion, 1-time Germany champion as a player. 2 German Cup. And with national team, silver at the Olympics in 96, world champion in 98, and 2-time European champion 95, 97 with national team.
And 2001, 3 times.
3 times it's also...
Google better this.
The Google is awful, man. Sorry, I forgot one. So I write there 3 times, sorry about that. And now as a coach, also a very, very rich experience. You coach in, correct me again, Cologne, Kiev, in Poland, Donetsk, Alba, Berlin, Lokomotiv Kuban, AS Monaco, Belgrade, and AS Monaco again. Now you're still head coach of Roca team. Is that correct? And as a coach, you've been Germany champion, Ukrainian champion, 4 German Cup, 1 Russian Cup, 2 times French champion, and 2 times this last time this season, and 1 French Cup.
Yeah.
This is what I have.
I'm not counting, but most probably it's like this.
Yeah.
Maybe you can find some other awards, but
I wanted to keep it short.
Best coach in any country, was working, all-star games, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of personal distinction. Absolutely. Very long career, very rich career. So my first question will be like, okay, as a player. How your past experience, do you think your training and everything you did as a player prepared you to be a coach? How does it help you to become a coach as a on a mental psychological level as a player?
Okay, I think it's a natural talent also. Like people who with the time having a playing career understands where you want to go. Like most of the athletes doesn't think about what is going to be after the career, and I think this is the biggest, let's say, mistake they can make during the active career. Not thinking about
after.
After like what you're gonna.
Did you know that very early in your career?
Actually, yes, but I was forced to to do so because when I get hurt, like my Achilles. I tore my Achilles, and then from that moment was shaky if I'm gonna continue. Luckily, I played another 6 years, but that was the moment when I start to think very serious about my coaching career, noting every practice, being around coaches. Okay, I was lucky also that I was always around, the best European coaches, like all the time, so this experience, like also helped me to make decision to become a coach. And these things, like, what you have, like as a adrenaline, like working every time, like, and once you lose this, like, I mean, you
Is it like a lot of players talk about like an addiction, like a drug? You need that. It's very empty when you don't have that anymore.
Yes, I think it is actually, and I know, what stress, like, like it takes, as a player, of course, even more as a coach, to what power you need, like to get on the top. Like it's a lot of passion, love, dedication, working, like on mental and whatever, even physical stuff, like even as a coach, like you have to survive even both parts, not just one. So
we have some discussion as a player. You were very, like, once again, for people who don't know you, you were a point guard. And I knew you a little bit as a player. I saw you play. Like, you are very physical, very as you were as a coach, very physical, very intense player. What do you think the qualities you had as a player translate as a coach?
Okay, I mean the one part, like I let's say I was having, even still now, be good, great basketball IQ, like to understand, what to do, like in some moments while I was playing. Then it's like a naturally, come the idea that I can also do this, like as when I stop, being coach on the floor.
Yes.
Like coach on the floor, coach in the locker room, like yes, and somehow this role come naturally to me.
Were you someone who talked a lot, who communicated a lot, who was like a vocal leader?
I think, I was able, like to give, like the orders, like even to anybody, but I think, like while I was a player, I was giving the example by
The attitude?
by attitude, leading by example with
By
the people
example,
like this.
yeah.
So I was always a hard worker. I always outwork, people. And this is, when you have such a guy in a group, like here you give, certain energy, like around people to do the same.
What was your coaches, the coaches you had? You had some great coaches. What was their approach on mental, psychological aspects? Is that was something?
Yeah, we had this discussion.
Yeah, but I want
like,
to have it here now.
Yeah, but the thing is, like it's a completely different. Like now, like when I grew up, like that was, something completely. Out.
How was it?
Was a mental and physical abuse. If I have if I have to explain this,
very tough.
Very tough, and very demanding. I said always, if I give this to my players now, they would kill me. I would be a coach, not even 1 week. Like if like this is what I was pushed to do. If I give this the same thing, same amount, same toughness, I don't know. Like probably it would be completely different story. So. I learned, like that, like what is the important part. Important part, of course, like to take care of the details of the game, like now even this part, how much you can go into the detail, like and not overload the people with the informations, which could be very difficult, like then the aggression you have, like as a coach, like which is supposed to be transformed, transferred to the players to do the same. Like here, sometimes it's you on the edge, like to lose the player. So this is always that kind
balance.
Yes, that kind of game. Like which you have to feel with who, how far you can push. Like how sensitive you can be, how good friend. Like in some moments you can be, but always to have a certain criteria, certain line of what you want to do, like as a tactic, like also as creating the atmosphere in the group.
Yes, that's something that was actually a question that's coming later, but it's something very interesting. I think is the notion of the right distance with the player? Is it something, like not to be too close and not to be too distant, as you said, for chemistry, for communication, for trust? Is it one of the, do you think, in modern coaching, one of the big challenge? Because I think the position of the coach, to complete my question, is really evolved, changed from the days, from your days when you were a player, from nowadays. So this question of the right distance, how do you approach that?
My experience is, very unique, I would say, because when I start to be a coach, my first year being a coach, I had to coach my teammates. Actually, almost the whole team, remain. They continue to play and now become their coach. Okay, I had respect, as a leader. But now, you have to have, above you are not a friend anymore, or you choose when you're going to be the friend, but from the other side, other position, you have to give the orders, you have to sell the story, you have to be demanding, criticizing the people, which is all belonging to the good coaching, let's say, job. And sometimes was not easy. Honestly, I tried both, even to be a good friend, and too demanding, maybe too aggressive. You have to find the middle out into this, it's impossible to be, too aggressive, and on the other hand, not even to be a...
Yeah, it's a balance.
It's a balance, but if there is a certain, let's say, distance when is the job, on the line, there is need to be this. When you are off the court, when you finish, I think,
Same thing, like you're going to tell me, I think I know the answer, but mental health now for the players is a big subject. It's really something rising up. Players and athletes all over the world are talking about mental health and how important it is. I'm pretty sure that was something like very low back in the days. What do you think about the fact that the players can communicate more about the fact that they have ups and downs or personal issues, and they can have support about that? What's your opinion about that?
Well, if I can compare, with me before, and we didn't never really take care of, we were joking with the people like you.
Of course.
This is, I said, the first thought is, I'm not crazy.
Not
whatever.
crazy or not weak.
You're weak, I can handle it. This is, especially in my country, is, more,
Absolutely,
watched. On the other hand, with the time, you understand that the generations, changed. It's not, the guys. I cannot say, even we had, some, let's say, weaker characters, and you have to handle them, in order to use them on the best level. Nowadays, I think it's even more sensitive with this part. So I think, the people like you. Can give you right directions, and I understood this, with the time. It's like even watching me 5, 6 years ago, I understood that, this is not gonna work. So change my beliefs, I accept some things, which can, help me, being better, easier, for me, because, I was also not easy, to myself.
Yes, of course.
And it was really painful also in this part. But on the other hand, even more important, is, here to feel the group, to feel with who I can, how can I treat individuals differently, and combining in a group, not to have the...
Yes.
Lose the certain criteria of, what I want.
It's very interesting, in fact, what you just said, because, as you said, you're from Serbia, and the way people might think, like, you never worked with sports psychologists before me, I think, and I was able to integrate the team. And from day one, when we met, I didn't know what to expect, but immediately you were very open about this aspect, and very interested about this aspect, and feel like this is something that can, help me, help the group. What do you think make you change your vision about, yes, this is something that can be very useful for me, for the group?
No, definitely, meeting you or having you in our staff, was essential for me to start thinking even more about this part. Even this summer I did, we didn't talk about this, but I did a lot of also sessions, different ways, different things, I believe in also, even now, more and more, that, the job, you do is, so essential, on no matter level, bigger level, probably the pressure is even more higher, here, which most of the people, very high percentage people cannot handle,
Absolutely.
so said I always consider myself as the toughest one, but I still, think that in certain points, me personally also need certain advices, how should I behave, how should I handle these different situations.
But that's great. That's amazing to me because for years, I think 10 years ago, I went to a conference. I don't remember which one, but we were all experts from different countries, giving opinion and feedbacks about sport psychology and evolution. And when we went to conclusion, we all had the same conclusion. We took a step with athletes about the fact that it's normal to work with someone. It doesn't mean that you're weak if you're working with a sports psychologist or a mental coach. And we could see that evolution. And everybody agreed that the next step is the coaches, because the coaches were pretty much in the same position than the athletes before. What you just said, that you think it could be useful for you, for yourself, for understanding the players, for personal matters, that was something. This is why I think it's amazing. Coaches will never say that, and we said that's a big step. And here's a coach from Serbia, old school, saying yes. I think that's amazing.
Yes.
And the same thing, when I work in a Monaco football team, I had a coach never worked with sports psychologists before. Really open about that, really trusted me, and that was Niko Kovac from Croatia. So there you go.
No, I think this is I think if somebody asks me what is the secret of being a good coach, first you have to be open to the different, let's say, ideas.
Yeah.
So what 10 years ago or 20 years ago, work in that period with that kind of guys. So now you have to choose another path, another part of your life. So is you are having this kind of group, you have to handle this way, and you have to be open for the help around.
Yes. But to be open to the possibility that there's stuff that could enrich you and give you a different vision. That's, for me, that's also a sign of strength. You're not afraid of going in a place that you're not familiar with. Great. So I want to talk about now your start as a coach. You started as a coach. What was the first challenges, as you said, transitioning from player to coach on the mental aspects and group aspects like communication or orders or, as you said, details? What was, you think, the first challenges from your early days to today's?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite complicated, I would say. I had to deal with, no matter, I wrote, a bunch of the papers, while I was playing, you didn't know what, exactly from what to start, from what point, you should, be the coach, how to teach the people and to become a coach. Actually, I had a good people, I chose a good people, who helped me, experienced coaches around, here giving me the direction. But in one hand, he was also coming from my country and was a strict, very hard, demanding, and not easy to handle, honestly. Even this, my first year being a coach, I took this so serious, I didn't sleep, also, analyzing the games straight after we finish, good or bad, we didn't start well, I never quit, of idea, to be demanding. Even though, we had some injuries, the career on the line, I was really hard, I would say, in any part, one part was, was also court, but when we finished the practice and everything, when we on the lunch, I didn't like people to laugh, to get loose, etc. So those things it was really irritates me, and I said, if they are laughing on a game day, like if they are so loose, how they gonna perform? Even though we discuss about this, I accept the changes.
We had some talks about this.
Yes, I accept that like this cannot be like this like before.
Yes.
So like me from the day one of being coach, to till now, okay, most of the people doesn't recognize me as a person, the way I behave. Yes.
And what do you think like the biggest changes you made in your coaching style, biggest adjustment from, so how long is it you're coaching now?
20 years now.
20 years.
Yes.
So of course you're a different man, different experience.
Yes.
What, like, if Sasha from 20 years ago meets Sasha from today, what do you think that are the biggest differences, biggest adjustment?
No, okay, 20 years is 20 years. 1 year is, like certain experience, now 20 years, like you learn what wars you wanna, fight.
Yeah.
So it's
you're picking your battles.
Yes, you're picking. This is the one thing. The big part of these 20 years. It's a process. You learn. And I think I had to be the way I was 20 years ago. No, even if now from this moment of my life, I would say, be that kind of coach, like 20 years ago. Don't be like now, and you are learning. No, you have to go through this.
Yeah.
You have to gain certain experiences by being too tough, by being, too strong, and then where is the line.
Yeah.
It will be.
You have to experience. You have
yes,
to confront yourself.
You have to go through this, hard, really hard coaching, start. To become, let's say, even though I still, show my emotion, etc., but
a little bit.
Yes, a little bit, but believe me, it's not comparable, and I believe, I improve on this part very much, also helping by you, we always analyze the games, and said, you were too aggressive now, you were too, you should react on this, you should say it this way, not that way, so that also what was
in
helping.
finesse, yes. Absolutely, that's something like, okay, you're European Serbian coach, or there's some kind of representation about those coaches that are extremely passionate, and there's a lot of yelling and a lot of screaming, and very different, of course, from the NBA. From kids watching NBA today, coaches don't coach like that or can't coach like that. It's not possible. So about that, like. You're very. We had discussion about this. Everything you just said about how to communicate and can you alternate and how to say things. What's the line? What's the limit? And with someone like so much passion as you are, is it something which is still hard to control emotion? As you said, you're way less emotional than you were before, so that might surprise some people. But like, is it something you really work on like every day, every game?
I mean, okay, also, like part of, like understanding, where you are, what momentum you have, like in the team, how hard you can be, or, like how flexible, let's say understandable.
Yeah, yes.
Like there is also, if you go back, to Serbian school, like yes, it's been the hardest, when is the fine, when you are good. And when you are, like down, like start thinking about, like okay.
Yeah, relax. Relax a little bit, yes.
And but even this part, it's not easy to understand from the new generations. So why you are attacking, like why you are now too aggressive when we are good, like. So even this part, like I, let's say, understood, like here that, like that can help me. In this moment, like I will do this kind of strategy. And I actually think, like sometimes, like I do in purpose, like yes. Certain, like provocations, like
you
here
told
too.
You told me one time, like Serbian with the master of psychological war.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things, like it's not, like same. It's not even written in the book, like the way I behave. Yeah. The best, like question I had, how you treat, this particular player, like problematic one. I said, you know, like, okay, I cannot give you the one formula on this.
Yes,
it's,
yes, yes,
formula from day
Yeah.
to day, from reaction to reaction. And this is, like how you build the confidence and how the people are trusting you. This is, like you cannot put
Yes.
on the paper.
I've got one question I think is going to be very interesting for coaches watching us. Is like, as we said, you're a very, very passionate person. I know you very well. You're passionate about basketball at a point that I rarely seen. Like, I think you could talk about basketball all day, and all the
Yeah,
time.
it's my love anyway.
It's you're totally in love. So, do you feel like between cutting to make from this passion and this, is it something hard for you? And do you think it's something important to be able to cut and to take some distance for your mental health? Or
I think it's important, and before, like I said before, I really took also on all the worries, like all the lost games, like, or bad games, bad played games, home. So this is maybe one, let's say, advice if I could give to anyone, to stop, like while when is everything over. Like here, try to switch to the other things. And I mean, it's not easy. We still, we had a game yesterday, we lost. Like it's like I consider like situation very hard. Like because like the bumpy starts of the season. But I understood. Like if I would go, like and now be too worried at home. Like it's not gonna give me a certain good, let's say, solutions, reactions, and like also this is what I learned now. Like this inner peace, which you have to create to be good for your mental health. Is essential. Like to have let's say even long career. I'm planning this. I know it's not easy. Sometimes like out of the season, it's to come out of the season and like do everything calm. It's quite impossible. Like it's really hurts. Like here, so to find a way to how to come out. Even like one day, I know this very good. When older people are telling me, when you decide like to stop, it cannot be just stop. It has to be slowly coming out.
Progressive.
Yes, because it's very also dangerous. I can feel this.
You
like
can feel it.
Yes, I can feel this.
Yeah, that's something that it could be too brutal.
It's too brutal. Like big emptiness.
Yes.
Because like honestly, if you really do want, like I this my also formula. It's like success to happen. You have to give all of you.
Do you like always just react on the moment when you have emotions on the sideline, or is it sometimes like you decide to have a reaction?
This deciding would be the best, let's say. But okay, sometimes you have to be spontaneous on the situation, what's going on the court. But I do decide. I do decide. My reaction towards different guys.
Would you say it's like mostly under control? Like
maybe 50-50. Not to be honest. 50-50. It's if I go to like 40. Like 40, like spontaneous, and 60, like this, I would be even more happy.
Okay, I understand that. That's very, very honest. So I know that when you give so much emotion and so much passion into the game, you come out of those games really tired, like come exhausted. Is it take a lot of energy from you, and how do you recover from this mentally?
It takes like really a lot. Like for me, honestly, some games even now or recently previous, like the year before, it hurts so much. Even if you win, like you still feel it, because a big tension, big pressure, is coming. You have to do, good, and when you are doing or not doing, like job, I have to say, like my mentality on this, I have to give everything, what I got. So even the loss, like I can accept easier, knowing that, every coach has to know, because you're not depending just from yourself.
Yes.
You are depending from the group, like, but, the thing is, like how much you can or you should blame yourself, like after all. And this is the mental approach, for me, it's okay every day, like, can I give more than what I had? No, I could not, so the loss is, I accept
You
it
can accept it easier. Yeah.
Before not, honestly not. Now I can.
It's something you improve
yes.
now. What do you have like activities or stuff you do to regenerate and find some energy back? What's working out for you to find some energy back?
No, I mean, okay, I have a special also routine on this, like after, like almost every week I do have, a good massage. During the week, like game day also I do workouts, for myself.
Yeah.
And I think, like also it's essential, like to do so, because, like it's obviously, like when you see now, the coaches who are, like really dedicated to the game,
Yeah.
but not on the other part, like it's that doesn't long, like too long.
Yes.
So this part, I think it's very important. If you're gonna achieve, by doing, like less in like scouting, recruiting, doing the tactic, like here towards, like do something for your physical or health. I think it's you have to take some part, like of this, otherwise, like it's also senseless.
Yes. Great. Before games, there's always, I don't know the exact term, like group talks or, pre-game speech. You could call it this way,
I
pre-game
think
speech.
it's okay.
What's your takes or strategy on what kind of emotion you want to communicate to the players, or the importance of the game, or the priorities? Again, on a psychological level, how do you approach those pre-game speech?
Different ways, I would say. It's not all the time, like same, like learning that, like also sometimes the motivation should be, like part of, like, yeah, we have to go, like we have to play the best, no matter outcome, like we have to present ourselves, like the best. Sometimes, like it sounds, like, okay, I take it, but I really don't feel it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like creating some, problem, conflict, like could help, like in our case, like I think conflicts help us almost every time, like to be better, to like to take care of, like the game even on another level, which I don't think it's always good, because I think, like having the group who understands, like how to operate, how to support each other, or, like criticize, push, like even certain conflicts between the guys are also helpful. And it's not, like also just being a friend. Same like, coach towards the players. So in the group has to be also certain level of, let's say, respect, like, and when the people are, like giving, like their maximum and leading by their maximum effort on the court, it's easier, like for me to coach.
How do you approach leaderships and to give responsibility to the players, or try to create an emphasis for some players to be better leaders or better vocal leaders through your careers? Is it something like, do you think it's something which is natural for the players, or something it's a role that you're given?
I think it's natural. Now my experience is telling me, like here, whatever, like how much you want people, like to lead.
Yeah.
Like it's rarely happening that they are really leading. I think, like from the beginning, the same like, if one kid is talented to have to play sport, this is what you see, right away. And so it's same with the team. I think, like sometimes you buy your leader the one who will be on the court, off the court, telling people
examples,
like what to do, how to do, and then this is like every coach has. So whatever you practice, giving the examples of what is the good leadership, there is you have limitations in this, because the guys who never did this, before on a high level, I think even like the most creative, let's say most talented guys, like are not always like the best leaders.
Yes.
They are good for themselves, not for the group. And you have to have those guys, but those who are having even maybe visibly, statistically less impact to the game, you see in other parts, which is leadership, doing the small things, dirty things,
positive reinforcement,
like even doing some, let's say like dirtiness, to the opponent, like to provoke, or to give you, let's say, the direction to your team.
How create a reaction,
someone who with this part, also give like the
visible, invisible, and the positive stuff, and also the trickiness. A lot of little stuff.
Yes. So for example, giving the model, in the game, here you want to play aggressive. If one is playing aggressive, this is not enough. Because people will call the fouls. But if 5 guys are playing aggressive, like you have less called fouls.
Absolutely. You met like hundreds of players through your career. That's a personal question I was curious about, is what players would you say you met in your career had the biggest mental, was the strongest mentally? And why?
So by name or what?
Yeah, by name. What players do you think has a strongest mental you ever met in your career?
There are plenty. I cannot say.
You can say a few.
Listen, if I have to say, the names. Okay, I was part of the team, who for everyone, every person in my squad, I can say that they were great, leaders. I'm talking about my national team. I actually, in these 7 years being, with them, winning, all this what we won, those guys, was great in any kind of leadership. They're tough, as a players, talented as a guys. Behaving great in a group, having, great in a group doesn't mean that we were always good.
Friendly, not
to each
necessarily
other.
friendly.
There were people who didn't talk even, off the court. But then when the court comes, they share the ball. They were thinking about each other, so. This part,
this group,
this group of, even still not in this moment, not reachable for the other national teams, this period we did. Hundreds years, so I would say in each player in that, squad, could be a part of
the world champion,
role model, yes.
World champion team.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny because like when we analyzed, like in France in football, that's something I also had plenty of discussion when we won the World Cup in '98, first time. There were so many good leaders in that team. That's very interesting. So different kind of leaders. But and a lot of them became great coaches, like Deschamps, but also we had Blanc, Zidane, and different kinds of leaders, like Thierry Henry recently. There's so many of them. And that's interesting. That's probably what's making very, very, very strong groups when you have not one great leaders, but actually the quality of leadership, amazing quality of leadership inside a team.
Wow. Yes, I think, one guy is insufficient, is not enough, here to...
But that's very interesting because that's something I discuss with young players, and they say they don't see themselves sometimes and say, I'm not a leader, and they see leadership more as a role rather than a human quality that you have to develop as a player. So that's my question. Do you think that it's if you have to be a great player, you need to have some kind of leadership, different kind of leadership, but you have to be some kind of great leader? in a collective sport?
In collective sports, this is good theory, but also honestly, I have to say also in my career or meeting the people, having really high level players, they were in certain point, not the best vocal guys, I can tell, from really from the past, the guys who also had great NBA careers, they were good, for them. They would follow the leaders. They would show by example, but they were not leading the team. Different positions, great shooter, Peja Stojakovic was not, for example, like someone who collect the people in the locker room. This is what he was never doing. He was doing the best, like when it needed, so, but the one, who's supposed to recognize this and, like searching this, like here, there, okay, this one is, like, let's say having, so not necessarily that, like the great leadership, like, so, could belong, like always to the great, let's say, scorers.
Yes, like scorers, absolutely. That was the first time you had a sports psychologist inside the team. Why do you think it's important for the players? And do you think all the players should talk to a sports psychologist?
Listen, I would tell you, like also from my experience, even this summer, like here. So I didn't have, like the hypnotherapy, like this time. First time I did it, like here to see how it works. And I was, like really, I mean, also, like I did another level of meditation, like the group, the guy, the guru, whatever, like here. Yes and no, like here. But this guy, like I took, something which is, okay, what informations you give, to yourself, like here, how you, like lead yourself, like to the positive way of thinking. Because, honestly, like also, this, like, I'm not all the time too positive and towards me, hurting me. And I said, I want to change this. I want to move from this. I think, for the players also very important, like any kind of, like this kind of, like help, like, like also can give a good directions how to handle, like the different stuff, like in on a high level, like here. We have to, like admit, like the high level sport, it's unhealthy in many ways, like here, physically and mentally, like here. People are not good, like after all, after the pressure they, face every game, through, like a different situations, like here, medias, like people attention, big contracts, like here, you cannot handle it, by yourself, and don't think you can. This is my, like advice to anybody. So, like there are something which you have to do more, to prevent yourself, for being, like even to have, like yourself, like even when you finish your career. But while you are playing, you have to canalize, like your energy very good, like here. So even the coach, because, coach is, like in not one guy, it's in 15, at least players, group of, therapists, president, like the medias, everything, like he cannot give you this completely. So, like in person like you, like I think, like the people can find, something what they need and, what they can share, because you cannot share everything with your coach.
Of course.
Like this is my success, like if I, push someone to the point that, he gives me everything. And I think, like mostly, like I succeed in this. But in other part, like is, like this, from other perspective, to see, like this situation. I can be tough, demanding, this, that, like here, but where is your focus, like here? This is, like, what I can tell you from the playing, but from the other side, like you can, maybe even feel
that's
better help.
Great take that you just made, because like when I meet a lot of players, especially young players, they always have these tendencies when I do an evaluation about being extremely tough towards themselves. They're really, really like, when they play bad or in the field they're playing bad. And they have this idea, so that's so great you can say that. They have this idea that being extremely tough, it's what's going to lead me to success. And of course, I try to explain to them that there's a balance. If you're too easy on yourself, of course, it's not a good recipe. But if you're extremely hard on yourself, too hard on yourself, it's not a good recipe. And like sometimes a players, very simple thing to say really, but players can be shocked about hearing that. Like, really? Yeah, like I work with a lot of great athletes, great coaches, Olympics medalists, whatever. And it's not because the toughest on them are the better. You have to find a balance, and you, as you just said, learn on how to be positive and supportive regarding yourself. And that's something which I think this is where a psychologist, someone outside, as you said, can make a big difference in a career. But
yeah, let me put it like this, actually, there are few percentages, of the people who can be really hard on themselves, can improve. There are, some, let's say, examples in different sports.
Yes.
When the people or parents are too hard, demanding on, and he becomes something.
Absolutely.
But in
how many are destroyed?
Yes,
yeah,
90%, are not, reacting the same way.
Absolutely.
These guys become really big champions. Who were hard on them, who are ready, to handle, all this toughness, here. But
and also what happened after the career when the career.
And this is another part, I think, that can hurt, really on the long way.
Yeah, absolutely. As a human being.
As a human being.
Absolutely. Another thing I wanted to ask, like psychology is something which is not very big right now, depending on the approach, on data. So it's not something you will have a lot of numbers. Do you think it's something missing? And do you think it's something that could be useful in psychology to have more data, more numbers, more precise evaluation of the work and how impactful it is?
First, there is you need, to have, interest, also to have a data, to have everything, people have to accept, even this kind of, coaching, or teaching. So if you understand this, and you open, let's say, to the data, to the informations which is supposed to be, exact, in many ways. You also how to handle if you realize, who you have in front or who you are, it's easier for you then, understanding, with all numbers, with all, let's say, advices, to become better.
Okay.
And most of the people, even, big talents are somehow, they don't want to share. They are afraid, to open, the heart, of, this is, how am I, here. And it's not opening, here, because of course you have to open on certain point. Not opening, being closed, you are again hurting yourself.
Yes. But do you think the fact that how coach can react to the fact that sometimes, let's say there's a psychologist working with players, how do you, maybe you don't have a precise proof that this is helping, you don't know really if it's helping the players, besides maybe asking the players. So how do you think coaches should approach that? You have a sports psychologist in the staff, you're not sure how much it is helping.
First you have to trust this, here. If you have, the clue and you, have, some, let's say, experience with this, which I started and I really wanted to develop, so then you will understand, that this is a process, same like other things. It's not, it's not gonna, gonna feel the results right away. Same with any other, psychotherapy. Yeah. You cannot solve it like this. It's like you takes time, takes techniques. Yeah. To learn how to handle the different situations.
So that's the key thing: to trust in the process.
Trust, here, and one day, you will understand, But first, get education on, whatever, you can on any side, any part, find some, learn about this, and then you will put on yourself, and I'm quite sure that everyone will accept it.
I understand. Last stuff, and we're almost done. This is the ending. What was the question I had? Yeah, like you never coached national team. Is it something you would like, and do you think it will be a personal, different challenge in your life to do that something one day?
I never coach. Actually, there always some idea, like people also offering me some jobs. Even Germany before now they were world champions. Like I was really preferring to go, like to team, like or daily basis, like job, are you have in any team? This is great, like opportunity, but it's completely different job, from what you have as handling the team.
Yeah.
So it's handling the national team in this short period. Like your mental approach is completely different.
Yes.
Towards like the players, the guys came, there. You have to handle the group, in a short period.
A short period of time.
On the longer period, like here the people can behave different. Let's say.
Once again, it will be a big psychological adaptation to do.
This is completely different, but national team coach is, I think it's impossible, for like being EuroLeague and being
to do both.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I think it's everybody get burned by this.
Yes.
And it's same like this. The other job, like you do many other things, preparing and everything, but it's you have to do also on a daily basis. Like here, dedicate, to any player. Like you have to handle, like in this short period.
Okay.
So this is, like not easy.
Okay, Sasha, I want to thank you so much for this. This has been a fantastic discussion. Great talking to you. And I hope everybody, learn a lot of stuff. I'm sure there could be like millions of other questions, but I thank you so much for coming after game day today. It took some time, and we all wish you a great end of the season, a lot of success, championship, EuroLeague, everything. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Bye.